Hello Life Kids leaders and Forge leaders. It is now our June to September video bite. So this is going to be a little bit bigger, a bit more chunky with a little bit more information just to keep you in the loop of what is going to be happening in the families department and particularly the children's department over the next 2 months. So we're going to start with a quick update on Kids Camp. We have got 22 children attending Kids Camp, so that's going to be super exciting, and we're taking 7 leaders. The church family have been wonderfully generous, and a number of people have sponsored children individually, and some have gifted a financial part which is going to support our children and maybe some of the children who normally wouldn't have been able to come. So hopefully they're in for a good time. Leaders, can you stand with us as we pray for these children to have that encounter moment with God whilst we're away, and for all of us leaders who are going to have the energy to keep going. Okay, next thing, let's look at graduation of our children coming up on July the 17th. That's going to take place in the morning service, so there'll be no Life Kids. For this year, I think it would be really nice to honour more children as well as those graduates who are moving to different departments. So we're going to try and bring a few more children across the stage. If we haven't got time to do that, then we will still gift the children who are going to be transitioning to different groups. I'm still in talks with Pastor Danny and the service team just to see whether that will work. We've also got the Equip graduation on that morning as well. So I know they're trying to cram quite a few things in, but that is the plan. I would love for all of our children just to have a moment where they get recognized, and for the church family to actually see the children's growth, development, to see who children are. So as a minimum, we will have the following groups coming across the stage and ideally representation from our leaders. Now, we'll start with the champions. If you are there, department champions, then I would love you to come along onto the stage. If you're not there, could you please nominate somebody from your group to help with the handover of the children from one group to the other? So looking at our Spark to Flash group, so we have Adelaide, Rue, Ethan, 2 Ethans who will be moving up. So would love to have you, Liz, on the stage, giving the children a Bible that they can take into the Flash group when they move up. Then we'll have our year 6 children who will be moving up into Legacy Youth. And we've got quite a wealthy group of children. We've got 14. They will still stay in our preteens ministry because we want to give them that year of transition, which will be during year 7. But at the moment, we have the following children. We've got Lucy, Angel, Austin, Charlie, Maisie, Grace, Nathan, Ruben, Noah, Evie, Nicole, Xanthi, Faith, and Jude. What we like to give those children who are actually graduating from our Life Kids department into Legacy Youth is a youth Bible and also a baton. So we give them a relay baton just to represent the next phase of their life as they take a hold of the baton. This isn't a baton, but it's a pen. But if you imagine this is a relay baton, they're taking hold of the relay baton and they're running their leadership life, because when they get into year 7, then they can join our Young Leaders Leadership Program. And we're trying to show them with the baton that they can start running with leadership. And then at some point they can hand that on to somebody else. If you have the opportunity and the time, could you maybe put pen to paper and just maybe think of an encouragement or a time that you remember of them being in your department? So that could be way back when they were tots in Spark or in the Flash group or Blaze, and or a Bible memory verse or just the general encouragement. It would be lovely to have as many leaders sending these children off and hopefully helping them to have that special memory of their time in Life Kids under your leadership. So I would like, Amanda, if you can be on the stage for that as the 567 ministry champion. And they will be handed over to the youth team. So Gemma and possibly another representative from the youth team there. Now, if we are allowed extra children and extra time to bring across the stage, I would love to bring across the children moving to Blaze. So the children moving into the Blaze department from Flash will be given a Let Us Pray book. It's not a tell you book, it's a do book. So such things as, today I thank you for, and they can write down 3 things that they can thank God for in their own prayer journal. So looking at those now who are going to transition from Blaze into the preteens ministry. And again, like we do with the youth, as they go into year 7, we give them a year transition from preteens ministry into adult church with the youth. We do the same thing with our Blaze to 5, 6, 7 children, our Blaze to preteens. So we give them the fun and the crazy of Blaze, but then they transition sometimes into the preteens, so they get the best of both worlds. And the children we've got moving up, I can't believe I'm saying this because I still think of them as so little. We've got Isaac, Oliver, Noah Beardmore, Evie and Harry are moving up. We have Scarlett, Zoe, Esther, Joel, Esther, Hattie, and Natty and Indiana. So we've got 13 children who are going to be transitioning into preteens. So for the preteen girls, we have a preteen devotional for girls, 52 weeks of encountering devotions and scripture for tweens. So that's what the girls will receive. And the boys, we've got an action devotional that they can enjoy doing at home as well. I'm going to hand over now to Praveen, who's going to explain what is happening with Life Kids over the summer and when we're going to be starting back in September. And then we're going to have a look at this month's theme.
Hiya Life Kids team, Praveen here. How are we doing? I hope we're enjoying the sunshine because I am absolutely loving it. And I hope hay fever's not too bad because some of us have got it pretty bad. I'm just going to fill you in on some small nitty bitty bits for Life Kids. So sorry to be so boring and get these little bits out, but it's just so nice for us to all kind of be on the same page and kind of know the updates. As you can see, I'm not in my office because I haven't painted anything as yet, so I thought I'd just find a different space to just do this. Anyway, just so we all know, we have a Oh gosh, I think we should just leave that in. Yeah, let's just leave that in. Yeah, they're just walking past me and just thinking, oh yeah, all right. Anyway, let's leave that in. So here we go. Life Kids is going to run up until the week of the 17th. We won't have no Life Kids. So no Life Kids on 17th of July. So for this week and onwards, we'll have Life Kids colouring packs for our children. So all of us will be on a bit of a nice holiday, hopefully enjoying some more of that lovely sunshine, and hopefully it'll last till then. Okay, just a few bits. Just in regards to these red folders, you've probably seen these. Safeguards, these are for you mostly, so that you hand out whatever's in here and you make sure that it comes back. So in each one of these you will have your lanyards. So for each one of the roles that each one of us serve, each one of the, they should all be in here. Sorry, I think the sun's got to me. So yeah, so you'll have like your key lead, your health and safety, your inclusion, your forges are in here as well. So again, safeguard lead, can you make sure you hand these out and bring them back? It's just nice and tight, everything's in one folder for you. Another thing that you will find in these is your colouring pages for this week. Also this week's resources and last week's resources for those that were away. So you've got that all in your red folder. Just whilst we're on safeguards, can I just please make sure that these red folders, including the lanyards, as well as the registration folders, come back to one of the Sunday managers. So I'm always on, but generally, if I'm not, you will know who the Sunday manager is for that particular Sunday. So if you can make sure that the red folder and the yellow folder come back to us, that's great. Also, just talking about the yellow folders, the registration folders, please can you also make sure that each child is signed in and signed out? And can we also make sure that everyone is in the right group? So if they're not, make sure you communicate with your with the Sunday manager, who will be kind of rotating and going through around the groups. Just liaise with them and we'll make sure that the children are where they need to be. Lovely. So lastly, if there's any resources that you need, lesson plan, if you need colouring pages printed or something downloaded like a video or anything, please do let your champions know, who make contact with me, and I'll make sure that I have them for you, ready for you. Just keep up the good work, guys. Like, we're almost there. It's the last little stretch, but yeah, let's keep up that energy. Let's keep going. Just keeping the energy going. I think that's it from me, team. But keep doing what you're doing, and super grateful for everything that you are bringing to the team and the kids. And if there's any suggestions, please do let us know. Thanks so much, guys. You take care. Bye.
Hope you aren't feeling too overwhelmed. That's a lot of communication to take in. We're now going to look at our July and September theme, Up in the Air. If you want to write some things down, please have your notepads ready. And for those of you who are key leaders, there's information at the end that you can look a little bit more detail into as well. Look forward to seeing you soon. Looks like my time is up.
All right, so let's look at this big picture overview of this series. Like we've said, the series is called Up in the Air, and this series is all about the prophet Elisha, not Elijah. He was the guy right before Elisha. So what we're doing in this series is really kind of talking about that handoff from Elijah to Elisha, and just kind of like these big shoes that Elisha needed to fill. And we're talking a lot about like big dreams, big vision, accomplishing big things for God.
Okay, so here's how that's going to work. We're going to start off in week 1 by looking at 2 Kings chapter 2, which is the story of Elijah going up to heaven in a chariot of fire, and how Elisha is going to take over now. And when he boldly asked for that double portion of the blessings God had given to Elijah, we're talking about how that was brave, and also he was dreaming big about how God can use him to do big things. So this week's big idea is I can dream big with God.
Love it. And then in week 2, we're going to be looking at 2 Kings chapter 4. And in this story, you've probably heard this story before. It's the story where Elisha meets a widow, and there is a jar of oil, and God does some pretty cool things through that story. And so what we're going to be focusing on in this story is what is our big idea, which is I can have faith in God.
That brings us to week 3, and we continue in 2 Kings chapter 4, and we talk about the story with Elisha and a family in Shunem, and how they experience both really joyful and very tragically sad things. But in both of those things, they find out that God will really deliver on those things that Elisha said would happen. So this week's big idea is I can count on God's promises.
And then in week 4, we are going to wrap up 2 Kings chapter 4 with a couple of stories about how God took care of Elisha and the other people who Elisha was with during a famine. So even when, things looked really bleak, really scary, we really want to help kids think about the fact that God can still be trusted to provide for them. So the big idea for this week is I can ask God for what I need.
And finally, in week 5, we're looking at the story of Naaman being healed of leprosy in 2 Kings chapter 5. And we find that in this story, Elisha doesn't really do anything extravagant or grandiose. Like, he doesn't even go and see Naaman in person. But it shows that God can just do amazing, extraordinary things, even through Elijah's super and simple instructions. And so the big idea here is I can be used by God.
Love it. And then, as always, we always give you a memory verse for the month. So for this month, the memory verse is really reminding kids to like look, quote, up in the air, to look up to God with their struggles, with their dreams. And so the memory verse this month is Colossians 3:2, which is set your mind on things above and not on earthly things. All right, so let's talk about the theme for this series. Once again, it is called Up in the Air, and as you can probably tell from the series graphics, the theme is about all things that are up in the sky. We're talking clouds, balloons, kites, all the things that are up there in the sky. And you know, the series really starts with Elijah being taken up into the sky. So that is a nice little lead in. And then we really want to help kids just think about like, again, like their big dreams, the big things that God can do through them. So that's the whole idea here. There's some really cool sky bulletin board paper that we recommend. You can find all of this in your programming guide for the series, as well as a bunch of other really fun stuff. So Linda, walk us through all of the other amazing ideas.
There are so many ways you can go with this because it's pretty broad, but that also means that you can kind of just pick which ones, make you excited. So we're going to lay out some options for you and see which one strikes your fancy. You can put out that sky bulletin board paper, or you can just use plain blue paper or fabric as your backdrop and just kind of put three-dimensional objects in front of it. So one way you can go are these three-dimensional paper clouds, which would line up perfectly with our series graphics. You can also make clouds out of like cotton and other fun like felt type things too, that would give it some texture. You can also add in some airplanes and all kinds of airplanes, like biplanes or like jumbo jets, whatever you like. You can also throw in paper airplanes if you want to go the more simpler route, and you can actually have your kids make this with you, right? So you don't have to do this all by yourself. Don't forget the hot air balloons, because those are always visually just really fun to look at. Or you can do regular balloons, especially if you have anybody in your ministry who is really good at making those balloon arches and things. That would be really fun. And another way you can take this theme is maybe go to the airport theme route. And so that would be really fun because then you can put up your daily schedule on like a departures board. You can create like a security checkpoint that kids can walk through, but maybe like don't make them take off their shoes or anything like that. And the cherry on top would be you can ask your leaders to dress up like pilots and flight attendants, which will just add to the whole theme. And you can incorporate all of the fun like gimmicks that come with that as you teach the lessons each week.
Okay, next up, we want to give you a look at the structure of the series. Now, if you have been using Grow for any period of time, then you've probably seen that there are some similarities to every single week, but there's also a lot of differences between every series. That is because we were trying to find that balance for you of like a structure that's similar month to month, so that you don't have to start from scratch every single time. You kind of know what to expect, but also enough kind of like new interesting things on a week-to-week basis that your kids kind of stay interested and stay engaged. So the thing that you can always expect to find in our elementary teaching is for our teaching to be broken up into 3 sections. That is the what section, which is what are we talking about? That's kind of like the fun intro to the subject. So what, which is why does this matter? And that's the part where we really dive into scripture. And then finally is now what? And that is where we do application for kids. So now that we've learned this Bible story, kind of heard what God has to say, how do we make this part of our actual lives? So you'll see that every single week. And then within every series, there's a couple of things that we try to keep unique for that specific series. So Linda, what is interesting and unique specifically about Up in the Air?
What's unique about Up in the Air is that every single module is unique. And I know if you've been using Grow for a little bit, then you'll know that we like to keep some of the things as recurring segments so you don't have to do a lot of additional prep. And so a lot of the modules, like you'll kind of build on it from week to week or just kind of do the same thing, but kind of change up the point. This series is super creative. And so they're all kind of different. But let's talk about that. We're going to talk about how we're doing different things as you do the Bible storytelling and also how you do the big idea reveals.
Amazing. So let's start with the Bible story. You'll also see in every week of Grow that we always have at least 2 Bible passages. The first one is like typically a story. And so that is really where we spend most of our time and attention because we know that kids learn best from stories rather than kind of like abstract concepts or ideas. So we always have a Bible story, and then we also have a secondary passage that really kind of helps enhance the thing that we're focusing on in that week's Bible story. And we know that anytime you teach a story to a kid, or really to anybody from scripture, there are like 1,000 different things that you could potentially focus on in the series, which is why it's cool that we have a 3-year scope and sequence, because every 3 years, we're going to come back and talk about Elisha all over again. And in 3 years, we'll probably highlight different attributes of these same stories. So Linda, walk us through what's like interesting and fun about the way we tell the stories this time through Elisha.
Yeah, I feel like you're going to really enjoy these because I feel also as a children's pastor, I kind of get stuck in creative ways to tell the story. And then we kind of go to our default comfortable zones. But this month, the suggested storytelling methods are super fun and on theme. So each week we have these suggestions. For example, in week 1, we're suggesting you get up on a ladder or a step stool, but with all the safety precautions, of course. And you have all the kids lie on their backs and look up at you. And then you can like kind of decorate it so it looks like you're floating in the clouds and stuff. I thought that'd be really fun because it reminded me of the movie Up, when like they're like looking up at the sky, and that's really fun. And I think kids would enjoy that as a different method of hearing the story. We have one where you're pretending you're inside an airplane cabin. So you can set up your chairs like, 2 columns of like, what is it, like 3 chairs each, right? In the rows. And you can do the whole airport dress up thing that we talked about earlier. You can like dress it up with, give them like safety instructions and like point out all the exits and stuff. That'd be really fun.
So every week, we have a big idea. And the big idea for every week of the curriculum is really just kind of a short, simple sentence that encapsulates the truth that we're trying to focus on with kids that we want them to remember. Because, these Bible stories can be kind of complex. There's a lot of things to remember. And so what the big idea does is it helps kind of really focus kids in on one simple truth that they can take away from the story. So how are we revealing these though, Linda? Because we always try to do these in kind of a fun on theme sort of way. So what does that look like this time?
Yeah, and you'll notice when you do your own deep dive into the series that each week we do focus on a different aspect of the sky. So one week we focus on balloons, one week we focus on planes. And so you'll see that theme kind of carried throughout each week. And so you'll see that in the Bible storytelling, the activities, and also in these big idea reveals. So in week 1, we're talking about clouds. So we're doing a classic crayon resist art. So you'll take a piece of poster board, cut it out in the shape of a cloud, and you write the big idea in like a wax crayon, and then you kind of paint over it with blue paint or marker or what have you. So the words kind of look like they're being, spread across the sky. That'd be really cool. And then week 2, we're doing paper airplanes. So you're going to write each word of the big idea on its own paper airplane. You're going to ask a volunteer, or you can do it yourself, like fly in one plane at a time, and the kids will catch it and read the words out loud. So that'll be chaotic and super fun. In week 3, we're talking about God's promises. So we have a lot of rainbow themed activities. So the big idea also, it's going to be one word on like different color paper, and then you'll like flip it over in rainbow colored order. And then so we'll reveal the big idea that way. And then in week 4, we're doing balloons, and so like hot air balloons, all kinds of balloons. So we're suggesting you do like you put the words inside the balloons and you pop it, and then the word comes out. But if you have people in your ministry who are deathly afraid of these things, or they're just really uncomfortable with the sound, or if they have latex allergies, all sorts of things, you can do the same thing with colorful plates shaped like balloons, and you just like flip the plates over and it will have the same reveal kind of effect. And lastly, in week 5, we're going to do the night sky, like I talked about with our Bible story. And so we're going to write each word of the big idea on a star, and then shape it in the shape of the Big Dipper, and then have it in order and have kids find out the big idea that way. If you feel like these are one too many ideas, like pick one you like the best, and you can repeat that from week to week. So you're like, I can't do all of this, I don't have the resources, and you're fine. Just if you want to do the crayon resist art each week, you can. Like, you're not stuck with these ideas. So have fun.